And when you realize you're already communicating, even if it's just half a sentence, like it's a small victories is the goal, like, oh, bom dia, and people understand your bom dia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Wondering Works for Us. Today, we're excited to welcome Anita da Silva, the founder of Portuguese with Anita. With over 20 years of experience as a university-qualified Portuguese teacher, Anita began her career in international schools before expanding online to reach students around the world. What started as Zoom classes quickly grew into comprehensive online courses that now help thousands of learners speak Portuguese with confidence. Anita is also the author of several children's books, including the first Portuguese coloring book, along with activity books and bilingual stories that make language learning fun for all ages. Through her courses and her content on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, Anita shares not only the language, but the culture and heart of Portugal. So please join us in welcoming Anita to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Wondering Works for Us. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Beth.
And today we are here with our special guest, Anita da Silva from Portuguese with Anita. Hello, Anita.
Hello.
How are you down there in the Algarve?
Well, still very wet around here, but hopefully next week there will be some sunshine.
Yay! As I said in the introduction, Anita's been a teacher, an online teacher of Portuguese for about 20 years now, and she has a great deal of online classes for children and adults. And basically, Anita, who else do you teach for?
Well, I teach many, like you said, children and adults as well, that especially want to move to Portugal or are interested in doing the move to Portugal from all over the world, basically, from the States, Canada, South Africa, the United Kingdom. So all over the world.
Well, I'm excited to have Anita here because as immigrants to Portugal, we have struggled with the Portuguese language, I would say.
Indeed.
When we first moved here, we started off with the government classes, the ones that are offered by the government here in Peniche. And we went through A1 and A2 because we really needed those certificates. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think we learned a great deal of Portuguese in those classes.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good getting our feet wet, as they say, kind of exercise. It got us started.
Yes, more or less.
But it also, there's so much emphasis on present tense, past tense, all the verbs and stuff. I also think that it basically kind of scared me off. And when we finished that class, I pretty much put down my Portuguese and took a break because I was so burnt out from going for a full school year.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it was all bad, but I'm also not saying it taught me how to speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
You felt overwhelmed with the amount of things that you needed to know in a short period of time.
Yes.
It was a great deal of grammar at one point, So what makes your classes different?
Well, you go step by step. That's and in a fun and relaxed way, which is the opposite from what you experience with, that situation that you mentioned. So normally you have a self-paced course that is already all pre-recorded, uploaded to my platform. You can do the lessons at your own pace, your rhythm. Oh, today I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I'm going to take a rest. Tomorrow I'm feeling ready again, so I'm going for another lesson. Today I feel like sending audios for my teacher to see if my pronunciation is in the right place. And you do it as you feel it. So for people with hectic schedules, especially, this is perfect. We are adults. We have so many things to do at the same time. So it can be overwhelming, the process. When you have a specific time and that amount of hours, the pressure, it can be overwhelming, right?
It is very overwhelming.
Yes. I also find because I'm taking another Portuguese class right now that is offered in person by the Silver Coast Volunteers. Shout out to SCV. The class is only 1 hour long. And I was discussing with my neighbor who's going with me, it is so much more pleasant to learn in what seems like bite-size, bits, because our class, our A1, A2 class, the government class, was 3 hours long.
Yes.
Wow, it's a lot.
And your brain
does.
is just dead after about an hour and a half. And so I really like doing it in bite-sized pieces, which if you were doing an online course like yours, you could pace yourself that way.
Absolutely. You don't lose concentration. You don't get bored or you don't fall asleep in front of the screen.
Yeah, I had problems staying awake during those night classes sometimes. Yeah. One of the things with those classes also is they teach you a lot of grammar, and to me, it was almost taking like a high school class that we would take, a Spanish high school class or whatever, but we never really got into conversations, and the main reason, of course, we want to learn Portuguese here is so that we can talk to our neighbors, so we can just make our lives much easier, of course. How long or what do your classes do to help you become more conversational?
Well, first of all, you start practicing from day one. You have no excuse. So, one of my goals and my missions as a teacher is basically to change the way people feel about mistakes, like make a mistake. People are so scared, about making mistakes. Look at children. They like sponges. They don't care. They practice what they learn. They're not scared of making mistakes. So what happens? They become fluent way faster than we do. Because when we overthink, right? So one of my goals is first of all to break that, misconception. Like, okay, so people will laugh at me. No, who cares? If they laugh, that's their problem, not yours. That's one of the first things, the mindset. And then you start with pronunciation, short dialogues. We have a conversation room to practice as well, because these are self paced courses. But then you also have a conversation room where we meet probably 6, 7 times per month. So you can practice, or you can reach out to me via audio as well if you want me to listen to your pronunciation. So there are always ways to start from day one. And when you realize you're already communicating, even if it's just half a sentence, like it's a small victories is the goal, like, oh, bom dia, and people understand your bom dia. Queria café, and people understand you would like a coffee. So these small steps, it's going to put your confidence in the place where it should be so you can develop your skills fully along the process. Because once I was as well a learner of other languages, and one of the struggles I found was exactly this, this gap between you learn all the grammar and you're waiting for the right moment to feel prepared. Eventually, it will never happen because you overload with grammar that you don't know how to use. So I work from day one with my students in this way, step by step, small victories, small words, small sounds, and then we start to build the structure and practicing some dialogues, like what I call real life dialogues, things you effectively really need to use in your life in Portugal. I hope it makes sense.
Does. And I like that. In fact, I read an article today about the word
Pronto.
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 Yeah, pronto. And pois. And it was talking about how if you start using some of these words just in a very, not performing them,
Casual.
but in a
Natural.
casual way, that you start to sound more fluent, more
Yeah.
like you belong, because you're using the terms that other people use. And of course, I didn't learn Poish in class.
No.
It's one of the most important words for the language because it shows our culture automatically. Like I always say that language and culture, they need to be side by side for this reason. because you will never become fluent if you don't understand the way we perceive the language, the context of the use of the words. And poish is the perfect representation of that.
That's great. Yeah, we had a hard time with that one. And one that actually you recently taught me, probably don't remember, I don't know, but I took one of her simple online classes back in December because I wanted to see how that was going to go. And she was talking about the word poish and she asked about other words. And mine was the word também, because sometimes, I mean, it means also the word também, but I would hear people at the end of a sentence or say também, também. And I'm like, why are they saying also, also? That makes no sense. Maybe they just throw that word out like poish. But you taught me that it's not também, it's tabém. They take part of the word off. And that's part of the things that we didn't learn in our government classes either, is they try to get us to pronounce the words correctly, but when you're in a conversation, it's very different.
Yes. And that is one of those situations that if you don't understand, you're going to be start thinking like, oh, what does she mean? And you lost track of the conversation. And this is what block learners.
That happens to me a lot. I get stuck on a word.
Yeah, exactly. And that the person's 3 sentences ahead of where your brain is, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's hard.
Exactly.
I think it's really hard work at our stage of Portuguese to not only listen, but then also to respond. And I've talked a lot to people about who also speak English. I'll say, okay, speak to me in Portuguese, but you have to give me a minute because right now I'm still listening, trying to understand it, then translating it to English, then thinking of my response in English, and then thinking about how to translate it to Portuguese to say it back. So there's like this gap in there right now.
I understand that, yes. And one of the biggest mistake is that we want to translate every single thing. But with different languages, right? English is a Saxon language, Portuguese is a Latin language, so it can never be fully translated at some point. It will help you in the beginning though, so you can understand what you're saying, of course. But when you get to the intermediate and advanced level, it will end up being more like an obstacle than actually a help.
Yeah, I'm learning that the further I go.
Yeah.
Is that, oh, this whole time I've been speaking Portuguese and English instead of actually speaking Portuguese. So, what do you think? Is it better to just start talking first, or is it better to learn a little grammar first, or a little vocabulary first, or all three mixed together?
You want my opinion? I have a very
Yes.
particular opinion about that. Without grammar, you're not going anywhere because you need to know the grammar for a language like Portuguese. But ideally, you would learn the speaking at the same pace. One without the other will never work. I know this sounds very, strict, but it's exactly like this because we're always waiting for the right moment to feel ready. Oh, I need to feel a bit more confident before I speak, right? What happens is that you will never feel ready because you know so much grammar and you don't know how to apply it. It's like too much information in your brain and not enough practice in your body. Because look, your throat, it's like a muscle, right? It needs to be, worked out. Like you're going to the gym every day to create muscle, right? A little bit every day. The same with the language. If you don't get your body used to the language, to the sounds, that can be really dismotivating at a certain point because then you know so much, like, but then you can't form a phrase. You can't make sense in your thoughts in what you want to express as well. So ideally, both things happen at the same pace, and that is totally possible if you're wondering.
That makes sense.
It makes much better sense.
And that's
But-
why, for example, just giving you my professional example, for example, in the beginner's course, you have the same structure in all my courses. But for example, taking the beginners as an example for this, you already have in the first module a pronunciation lesson. So you start from scratch there with pronunciation. At the same time, you start with the grammar.
See, we needed that. In our government class, you don't talk a great deal.
You
Right.
should.
Yeah, we had times where we had to do like a presentation to the class where we had to research somebody and write a little paragraph about them and then talk about them. But at our level, even if we got up there to talk about them, we still had no idea what anyone was saying. So it kind of defeated the purpose. I mean, it gave our teacher a little bit of information about how we were speaking or how we were pronouncing things, but it didn't help anybody else, I think, in class when we did that.
Right, right.
Okay. So, a lot of people that are coming to visit or moving here, they often get on an app like Duolingo. I used Drops, and I can't remember what the other one I used.
Memorize, probably.
Yeah, Memrise, yes. Now, some of those apps teach you Brazilian Portuguese. Is that gonna help you here at all?
In Portugal. Do you want the political correct answer or you want my opinion?
I'll take both of them, actually.
How can I say? Reality is that we're talking about the same language, but different variants, right? We have the same roots, and that is a fact. Although the sound is quite different. Like the pronunciation. Let's start with just the pronunciation. Okay, so the pronunciation is completely different. I'm going to give you an example. The word chocolate. In Portugal, you say chocolate. I eat the E in the end, just like I would eat the chocolate, right? But if you're doing the pronunciation in Brazil, it would be chocolate.
Ah, really?
Imagine learning Portuguese as a second language, which is already a big challenge, second or third or fourth, and so on, and moving to a country that has a completely different pronunciation from what you learned in this app or in some lessons. And then that's not all. For example, bathroom for us is casa de banho. For Brazil is banheiro.
Mm.
Gym is ginásio in Portugal. It's academia in Brazil.
Wow.
Mobile phone is telemóvel in Portugal. And in Brazil it's celular. So see the difference in the vocabulary as well. So imagine that could be a disaster.
Yes, it could.
Then you also have aspects of the structure. They use the gerund, for example, while we use, for example, our variation of present continuous. Like, for example, if I want to say I'm speaking, I would say in Portugal, estou a falar, right? In Brazil, you would say estou falando. So there's a whole different, it's like imagine two completely different worlds of the same language.
They're not like identical twins, they're like fraternal twins.
Fraternal twins that were separated at birth.
Anita, is there an online app that you recommend for European Portuguese?
Well, you have Drops, but Drop is very limited regarding the features. You have Memorize, but I think you have to pay at some point as well. So those are European Portuguese, 100% European Portuguese. But always see the app as an additional resource, not as your main resource. The apps will never prepare you for real life like a teacher does.
Mm.
Okay? So
I use DeepL a lot to look up a word or try look up a word that I need to say or to try to spell it so that I can figure out what someone said. And that is European Portuguese.
absolutely. And it's the most reliable online translator.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about culture and the language, because learning Portuguese, like you said before when we were talking about the word pois, there's a lot of culture in the language. So sometimes there's a lot of misunderstandings also that happen when we're speaking words. And it happens with a lot of pronunciation. For example, there's a big difference between pow and pow. As Beth had learned, she was trying to buy bread.
Yes, I pronounced it like it was the latter, and our sweet guy across the street, he's left now, but he was at our cafe. He goes, and he speaks great English. He said to me, "Okay, I need to explain this to you."
So, what other kind of cultural issues can you come across in the language like that? That's something that you really should know before you get yourself into trouble.
Well, apart from that, making the nasal sounds really nasal. Okay, and by nasal, I mean use your nose, not just your mouth. Okay, otherwise it will not work out, and you're going to be asking for something naughty instead of bread, for example. You have no idea the stories I hear about that. So, my best advice would be try to understand how the Portuguese mindset is. So, the culture. We are very, how can I say? We are cool though. Don't think we're not cool, but we're very formal in our approach, right? So, we use the formality for situations where well, basically, it's the first time I'm seeing you, so I should always address you formally. And many people, when they're visiting the country, they don't know that yet. So they might have a look from Portuguese people like, oh, were we in school together? So you're speaking to me like I'm your friend. So it's not that we are rude, and sometimes people confuse our formality in speaking with rudeness, but it has nothing to do with that. It's just our culture, the way we address each other's in our day-to-day lives. If the person is older than you should always address them formally. Or even in a business situation, it should always be formally. Like, for example, the difference can be very slight in many situations, like, how are you? Como está? It's the formal. And the informal, it's como estás? So you're addressing the person like you are best friends, like you are family. So these little things sometimes can be, oops, and the person look at you, como estás? Excuse me. And of course, this has to do with as well the fact people realize if you are not Portuguese and they forgive you. Well, if it's me, I'm in big trouble, of course. But if it's they understand that you're not a local, they will, oh, look, you should say it this way. So they even help you. So, but I think that's probably the most noticeable one.
Yeah, I have found nothing but people being helpful to me when I'm trying.
Oh, nice.
And when we were in same cafe again, it's across the street from us. We were in there. This has been months and months ago when we had our Portuguese books out and we were looking at them and kind of studying. And there's a regular 4 to 6 woman group that's there every morning. And I think if there's 6 of them, 5 of them don't speak English and one has a little bit of English. And they figured out we were studying Portuguese and they were so excited that we were doing that. Now, every time we see any of them, they're like, "Hola."
And they always try to teach us new vocabulary. So they're pointing to your shirt and your
Yeah, and they'll do this with the earring and say the word and yeah.
and yeah, I
Be
couldn't tell you
careful with the naughty vocabulary words.
Oh,
we have had a few people try to teach us those, or I've actually asked some questions.
that I will not repeat on this podcast.
Speaking of words you should know, what are some words that you would let's say someone visiting Portugal for a week or two, what are some words that they definitely should come knowing?
Well, if you want to impress the locals and get even better service as a visitor, you should always know the greetings, like the basic ones, like bom dia for the morning, boa tarde for the afternoon, and boa noite for the evening and good night. And then, of course, por favor or se faz favor to say please, and as well as obrigado if you are a man, obrigada if you are a woman. And you can also say, I would add desculpe, like I'm sorry or excuse me.
And con licença.
Yes, também. Desculpe can suit both situations, like can be for you to apologize and to say excuse me as well.
right.
And you save one word if you're just a visitor, less one to memorize.
That's true. Yeah.
So tell us, I've had this question before from someone who was visiting. When do I switch from bon dia to boa tarde? And then when do I switch from boa tarde to boa noite?
It's a question I actually get asked a lot. But it's always like I say, come on, this is not mandatory. It's not like, oh, it's a rule you have to obey, right? But what I learned as a kid from my grandparents was that from the moment you wake up in the morning until you have lunch, you say bon dia. But there are people who use bon dia as good day as well. So you can use it all day long. So the bon dia can be used all day long. Okay? And then if you want to use one specifically for after lunch, before dinner, or before it gets dark, you use boa tarde. And then boa noite suits both good evening and good night.
Yes,
I hope it makes sense.
it does.
We talked about this a little bit, but I didn't know if you had anything to add. My biggest fear always, of course, was making mistakes when I'm speaking Portuguese. I'm just afraid to speak. Now, here's the thing. I'm somewhat of an introvert as it is, so going up and speaking to someone in English is just as difficult as it is in Portuguese. But how do you kind of relieve someone or get them over their fear of speaking? Because that has been, I'd say, my biggest challenge.
I know. So I would say that you need to change the relationship with mistakes, the way you look at mistakes by changing your mindset. What I mean is, you need to understand that mistakes are not exactly a meaning of failure, but they are proof of progress. Like you came from zero to mistakes, so that's the step, right? Am I right? I tried. Exactly. There you go. But in most people, like they try to build the confidence before they actually speak. So they think they will get like to a perfect pronunciation. But that's no such a thing as perfect pronunciation. Otherwise, me or millions of people in the planet would not go for a second language, right? We would be always scared of what people would think of us. So speaking from day one, creating a safe and encouraging space, celebrating like small victories every single day, this will make, your confidence go up there to the right place.
I'll work on that.
So building confidence before perfection, ladies. There's no such a thing as perfection.
Because at some point I would like to be considered fluent, but it is going to take a while.
I hope it happens before we die.
I can't even promise that. And I got some years left. But I'm going to practice more.
Yes, that's good. With no fear.
No fear.
Good.
What is your most inspiring story as a teacher?
I think I'm a very happy teacher in that way, and I have many successful stories. But the one that comes to my mind firstly is that I had this couple and they became fluent in 2 months. And when I mean fluent, it's just not to a conversational level. They became fluent in 2 months. But they were the most determined two people I've ever met in my life. And they had each other to support each other fully in that process. Another thing is that they had time. Okay, so that also needs to be mentioned. Okay, so don't think, oh my gosh, I feel so bad now. Someone got fluent in No, that's not what I mean. Okay, but what they used to do was every single day they started to like after breakfast focusing in the previous lessons things. They would write every single time, do exercises around that until they master it. By the end of the day, they would send me the audios. So for me to check if everything was correct. They wanted the communication with me fully in Portuguese. No translation was allowed. Let's put it this way. Okay. So what happens when you do this as a system over and over again, every single day for 5-6 hours a day, which is a lot, it's a big commitment, is that you start thinking in that language. You start dreaming in that language, right? You start looking at things and you start describing it in your head in that language. And that is a sign that you're becoming fluent. And that happened to them. But again, they had time for this and they really needed this because they were like in a rush to do the CIPL exam and to move to Portugal. So they wanted to be fully confident. Plus, the native language also has some similarities with Portuguese, especially in the most difficult sounds. So they were Russian. So the sound, the throat was prepared for our sound in a better way.
Yes, we've had some Russians in our classes, and one woman from Ukraine, and they
Picked it up so much quicker.
yeah they really caught on faster.
Of course, Europeans are known to learn more than one language,
True.
whereas Americans, yeah, we don't so much.
We start to be like, how can I say? We start to have lessons from a very early stage in school here as part of the curriculum. That helps as well.
And I think that's one of the best gifts that you can give your children, you know, is to start early and get them used to different sounds. And and as you said, they have the confidence to just practice, 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 and they don't have all the hangups we adults have. My biggest problem, and I wondered if maybe you can, for somebody listening who has the same problem, maybe you can offer some advice. Mine is not necessarily confidence. I am, unlike Shelley, a very outgoing person. I can talk to anyone at any time about anything and enjoy it. But my biggest problem is remembering words. So, I'll be having a conversation about something and I'll be spending the entire time thinking, oh, Lord, what's the word for umbrella? That kind of thing. And I have I've got shuva. I've said that a lot.
We've learned shuva.
Yeah. But I have sort of an under pressure, that's a song, isn't it? Under pressure recalling words. What's your advice for that?
Well, I would say repetition, right? But association is also very helpful. So try to remember, for example, imagine taking the example you just gave me, like the umbrella. So if you translate or if you break it down in Portuguese, it's guarda-chuva, right? So guarda, it's a keeper, chuva is the rain. So it keeps you away from the rain or keeps you safe from the rain, right? So if you try to make associations with the words, it will eventually come to your mind way easier.
Okay. And do you think that something like flashcards is good for someone like me?
If you are a visual learner, that's definitely one of the strategies you can adopt. You can even make your own flashcards.
Yes. I've been doing that.
Ladies, you have my courses, so you go below the lessons. There are some lessons where you can download some flashcards and you can even print it.
That's great.
Yeah, so that will help you if you are a visual learner. That is one of the strategies you should definitely, do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good advice. Thank you.
Well, tell us about your courses. What are you offering online right now?
Well, I have 7 courses for now. I'm working on the 8th. So I have a beginner course for beginners. So people who want to learn from scratch the basics of the language. So it's the first level. It goes from A0 to A2. And then you have the continuation of that course in the intermediate course. That goes from B1 to B2 level. And then you have the advanced master course that it's C1 and C2 level, which is an amazing course. I'm very proud of my advanced course, by the way. So
That's great.
courses I just mentioned, they consist in the 3 levels of the language, where you have a mix of grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, culture, listening, dictation activities, multiple things for you to practice as well. And then you have a tourist course for people who just want the perspective of being a visitor in Portugal. So you just want to learn, a little bit of the culture, some basic phrases, like, for example, an emergency situation or greetings or, things like that. You also have a Portuguese master course for children. So I would say the minimum age is 5 until they feel, that it's too childish for them. So teenager. And then you have the preparation course for the CIPL exam, which is my newest course. I launched it in January this year. It's called CIPL in 5 steps. So it shows you how to get prepared, how to be able to understand the instructions of the course, and of course the contents as well. So with all the activities and exercises you need exactly to do in the exam. And then you have the Portuguese Daily Conversations Master Course, which is an A2 level course that it's only about dialogue of our day-to-day life in Portugal. Like going to the bakery and not asking pau instead of pão. Like going to the pharmacy, looking for a job, going for a meeting, all the situations you need, like calling the emergency line, calling the electricity company, all of these situations that you need to be fully prepared, like real life language. Okay. So these are the courses I'm offering at the moment. And
Awesome. Where can people find you? What is your web address?
well, my website is portuguesewithanita.com. And then
And I put that in the show notes.
they can find me all over
Said
the
it.
internet as Portuguese with Anita.
Yes, we follow you on Instagram and TikTok and maybe Facebook too.
Yeah, I love your reels. And again, part of that is because they're short little videos and you address one thing. And I'm like, oh, of course, that makes sense. Kind of.
And she
add
talks
flavor.
about multiple things. Well, I mean, like, I saw one this morning about food.
Paparatos,
What
right?
the paparato shit. I was like, I'm not sure I would eat something called rat eaters, but it looked really good.
You never know.
Well, last question, unless you have anything else you would like to add.
I think before we wrap up that we've mentioned the CIPL exam a couple of times, and a lot of our listeners will not know what that is. Would you tell us what that is, Anita?
Yes, of course. It's an exam that it's required for you to prove that you have achieved A2 level language for residency purposes.
If you want to stay as a permanent resident
Yes.
or get citizenship.
Or apply for citizenship. Yes.
What is one Portuguese phrase that you love and why? What's your favorite one?
Like the expression devagar se vai ao longe. Something like slowly one goes far. I don't know if the translation makes sense.
That is perfect for us because we dedicate a lot of time
We wonder.
saying travel slowly, wander through the streets, don't pack your itinerary. We say that all the time.
I like it because it kind of reflects both the Portuguese culture and the language journey as well, right? It reminds us that the consistency matters more than the speed, right?
Ah.
Slow progress is still real progress.
It is.
I like that.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today.
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Anita.
These ladies, thank you so much for this.
This has been great. And we've been so excited about this interview too.
Yes, we have. We will, of course, put all your information in the show notes and
Absolutely.
as we share it so people can find you.
Okay. So I guess that's.
Hope I can help it.
Thank you for that very much.
Obrigada.
Muito obrigada.
Yes.
All right. So are we good for today?
I think so.
So I guess we could say boa tarde.
Boa tarde.
Thanks for wandering with us. If you had a laugh, learned something new, or just enjoyed the ride, be sure to follow us on all of our social media at Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, and I think that's it. Check out our website at www.forus, that's www.forus.com, and drop us a line at our email address at wandering@www.forus.com. We'd love to hear from you, your stories, questions, or favorite travel fails. Until next time, keep exploring, keep laughing, and remember, wandering works for us, and it just might work for you too.